I made a few mistakes today, beginner mistakes, but either way I'm gonna try and enjoy this really beautiful scenery. Today I'm gonna photograph a foggy forest, that foggy forest, with a telephoto lens on a full frame body on a winter day. So it's gonna be spectacular. Hey everyone, my name is Toma, Phototom here on YouTube. This channel is about landscape photography, so if you're interested, subscribe and hit the bell to be notified about future videos. You can support me and you can learn more about landscape photography from my landscape photography ebook, or if you're interested in how I'm editing my foggy forest, I also have a course on editing foggy forests, and I also have some workshops. So if you want to support me in any of these ways, just check my website. The link is on the description of this video. And now let's get back to the topic from today, and that is to photograph the foggy forest in a winter day using a telephoto lens. I said in the beginning of this video I made a couple mistakes because I was in a hurry. I forgot my microphone and I also forgot my battery. So I only have two batteries with me, one for this camera and one for that camera. The battery from that camera is half drained. General tips when you're doing landscape photography in winter conditions. Tip number one, if you're using a DSLR, make sure you overexpose the scene with 1/3 of a stop, 2/3, one stop, 1.5 stops. It depends how much light is on the landscape. The DSLR will tend to underexpose the white of the snow. You must overexpose it just a little bit to get this feeling of white. Tip number two, the white balance is important. Yes, you can set it afterwards when you're editing the photo, but I think it's best to have a true feel of the image. So use a white balance of cloudy or shade. It depends. You look at the photo, you see how blue it is, and if it's still blue, you go for the shade. And now I'm going up to the fog or into the fog, and I'll start photographing and offer you some tips, particularly using the telephoto. The first tip I have for you when you're doing photos with a telephoto is to plan ahead. So you're not looking in your proximity at elements near you, but you're finding subjects in the background. So it's a different way of looking at the landscape, because you have to know from the start what you want to photograph. You don't wait to get there and photograph it, because with the telephoto it changes the perspective and you need a certain distance between you and the subject. For this photo over here I used f11 ISO 100 and 1/6 of a second. And here comes tip number two. Because I'm using a longer focal length, the depth of field decreases. So I'm going to have to increase the aperture and close the aperture at f11 or f16. But I will also have to be very careful and not have elements really close to me included in the photo, because those are going to look like big blurry elements and it will not look okay. Tip number three would be to focus or put the focus point exactly on your subject. You don't have to ask yourself, where do I focus? The focus point has to be on your subject when you're using a telephoto lens. I stopped here for this shot and I did a portrait framing and a landscape framing. The idea was to capture the trail that goes through the trees and into the distance. In both cases, I used trees on the edge of the trail to focus the attention of the viewer in the background. The focus point was also in the background. And the settings again, 1/6 of a second, f11 and ISO 100. Now let's explore the forest in that direction, and after that maybe I'll return in this area and do some other photos. The entrance in the forest right over there looks really good. I have trees, I have hoarfrost, the branches are covered with little edges of snow, of ice. It looks really good. Because I'm in the open, I'm outside the forest, the settings changed a little bit. So I'm 1/15 of a second, still f11 and ISO 100. Problem is the battery, it's almost gone. Another tip when you're using the telephoto is to make sure the subject separates from the background. The longer focal length will compress the fields, the layers, and you need to be extra careful and to have the subject separated, because otherwise the viewer will not realize what the subject is, and that is a poorly executed photo. I was sweaty and I was getting cold, so that's why I have changed clothes for situations like this. Now I'm okay and I can continue photographing. Now I'm hiking up because I know that in this forest the fog is gathering in a certain place, so I hope I'll find some more. This place over here looks really well. First of all, the snow doesn't have any marks on it, so it will look really well. And then I have the trees in the distance still having the autumn leaves, the dark brownish leaves, and kind of hovering above the trail. Another tip would be, as you saw me photographing from here and then I went over there, so when you find the subject, try and look for different compositions, frame it in portrait mode or landscape mode, from a short distance, a bigger distance, so you explore a little bit the possibilities, and in the end maybe you end up with a really good photo. This was it for today. I hope you like it. Comment if you have questions or anything to say. Share this video with your friends. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Again, you can support me by buying my landscape photography ebook or my course, or join me for one of my workshops. Either way, until next time, keep on photographing because it's the only way to get better. Bye bye.